Hey everyone, Ben from Mashax here. I'm here to introduce you to the world of brew in a bag. What I've got here is my brand new equipment, or 2 batches deep now, but this is everything I've needed to get up and running with brew in a bag. All grain brewing doesn't have to be scary or expensive. The equipment I've got behind me is very cheap, with one exception, the Brew Kettle. That's just a personal splurge of mine. But what I want to show you is that it's not difficult to get up and running with brew in a bag. It's not difficult to get up and running with all grain, and you can do it all right here in an apartment. So the following is just a list of equipment from scratch that you're going to need to get up and running with brew in a bag. Okay, starting with the boil kettle. Of course, this is where you're going to be boiling your wort. Now you're going to need a big enough one to brew your batch size in. I wanted a pot big enough to brew a 5 gallon or 20 litre batch size, so I doubled that and got a 10 gallon or a 40 litre pot. It doesn't need to be big and shiny, but this is where I splurged, and I got a nice SS Brewing brew kettle. Now of course you're going to need a valve at the front there, and that's just so you can drain your wort. Now this particular one has a trub dam at the bottom there. So far, mixed results. If you're using whole leaf hops, it doesn't seem to do a very good job, but pelletized it does well. Make sure you've got a nice sturdy lid, and make sure it fits well. I quite like the way that one fits. Next thing you're going to need is a jug. Now I've got a 5 litre jug. And basically this is so you can measure out your volumes, it's so you can move wort from A to B. Very, very important. You're going to need a mash paddle, which is this guy here. I prefer like a wooden mash paddle or something a bit more sturdy than this plastic one, but you can't beat like $2. Importantly, you're also going to need a digital scale. This one is up to 2 kilograms with a 2 decimal place accuracy. It's very important you have good scales. You're going to need to do a lot of measuring. Just a note on the brew kettle, you're also going to need some thread tape, and that's going to go around any barbs you buy or any seals that come in the pot. Another very important purchase is the temperature probe or a thermometer of any kind. You're really going to want to know your temperatures, and this is really important. So I recommend the chef alarm because I think this thing is genius. It's got timing functions and alarms and all sorts of bits. That's my favorite one, but any thermometer will do. Now, it wouldn't be brew in a bag without a bag. This guy here is just a synthetic cloth bag. Really, it just needs to be big enough to fit in the pot, and this is what we put the grain into, and then it allows us to then just pull it out when we're done with the grain and leave just a nice wort behind. Now, compared to sort of traditional all grain brewing, your beer is going to be a little cloudier because there's going to be a bit more particles get through that, but that's not a big problem. All right, moving on. To record the specific gravity of our wort or beer at any time, we need a refractometer. Now you can also use a hydrometer, but personally I want to just go out into Amazon or something and pick one of these up. They're great, they're pretty cheap. They're not always the most accurate or reliable thing, but they certainly give you the gist of what your standard gravity is, and it will let you know how much alcohol is in your beer. A couple of things to remember to pick up are some Irish moss or any other kind of kettle fining. You put these in probably a teaspoon at 10 minutes to go in the boil, and that just helps clear up your beer. You've got some no-rinse sanitizer, the most popular one being Star San. I've picked up this no-name one from the homebrew store I go to, and it's been excellent. It's probably pretty much the same stuff. You're going to need a spray bottle. This is invaluable. You just fill it with some Star San solution, and then you can spray that on everything. It's great. You're also going to need some sort of cleaner for your stainless steel. I just use regular old washing detergent. The oxy-action ones do pretty well, but this guy's going well. A few bucks at the supermarket and you're good. Moving on to the bottling stage, you're going to need a bottle brush if you're bottling. I suggest you bottle to start with, it's just a bit easier. You've got yourself a bottling wand, and basically you attach this to your fermenter, and then it's got a little spring at the bottom, and that lets you just push your beer up onto the wand and it will fill your bottles without spilling everywhere. And finally, you're going to need some silicone hose. Now this is just 2 meters of pretty you're going to want some thick stuff. See that? You really want it to have nice thick walls. That way it'll be nice and rigid. So when you have boiling fluids running through it, it won't just kink. It will hold its shape. But really that's just really handy for getting, again, boiling liquids or wort from A to B. And of course we can't forget the most important piece of equipment, and that's the fermenter. Now I've got this guy covered in a towel. But essentially what you're going to need here is an airlock and a grommet at the top there to keep the seal. Now I've just gone and got myself the cheapest bucket from my homebrew store. Again, this is like 10 bucks. Make sure you get yourself a nice spigot at the bottom. I don't understand these people who ferment without spigots. It's just so much easier to open that tap at the end. You can see that the yeast in the tube is just below where the spigot is attached. So really you'll just get nice clear beer and there's no fuss. The one problem I have with the buckets, getting this lid on and off, it's just a pain in the ass. It hurts a little bit because you only got this little grip, and it's just not fun. So you might want to invest in a better fermenter eventually, but certainly start out with a bucket. It's just easy. And that's really all there is to it. That's all the equipment. I've done a couple of brew in a bag batches now just at home in my apartment. I must note that I've no chilled one of them and I've chilled the other one in the bathtub. So I'm literally just lifting my pot and throwing it in the bathtub and running some cold water. So if you want to chill a little bit better than that and you don't want to lift big pots around, we'll get to chilling your wort properly in future videos. Speaking of which, I'm going to go through the brew in a bag process in a lot more detail and really get into the nitty-gritty of each step. You'll see an overview video in future of me just running through a brew day. It went a little bit more chaotic than the video may show, but it's still, everything went to plan and everything worked eventually. I hope you've enjoyed this overview of the products. I'm going to write up a blog post and give some links to all of the pieces. If you have any questions, comments or suggestions, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I'm very happy to get back to you on any questions you have with what equipment you need with brew in a bag. Anyway, until next time, I'm Ben Cull. I'll catch you then. Cheers.